you think, Marge? All I need is a title.
So, even a cursory examination of history tells us that politics, power, and promiscuity have been around for about as long as there has been politics, power, and promiscuity. The intertwining of these aspects of human society has been the basis of mythology from the biblical creation to the legends of Troy. Was a love triangle at the center of the relationship between Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and Cleopatra. The defeat of Mark Antony at the Battle of Actium and then the suicide of Cleopatra led to the ascension of Caesar Augustus to the rulership of the Roman Empire. This intertwining of politics, power, and promiscuity has played out in more recent years as well. How many affairs did King Henry VIII have during his attempts to continue his family's hold on England through a male heir? The refusal of the Catholic Pope to annul Henry's marriage led directly to the founding of the Anglican Church. In America, we are no strangers to politics, power, and sexuality mixing together. Various people in power have been scandalized by revelations of forbidden trysts. President Thomas Jefferson had a child by one of his slaves. John F. Kennedy once had an affair with actress Marilyn Monroe, and later, Edward Kennedy drunkenly killed a woman when he drove his car off a bridge. It has to be said that news of the sexual predations of powerful people in our society has gotten so frequent that people are not as surprised by it as they once were, even if that news is about an adult having sexual contact with a child. Such an incident might bring a few more raised eyebrows, but no one is really surprised by the revelation. This is due to the exploits of our first subject and the subsequent cover-up of the story and the slamming of the reputations of the victims of former President Bill Clinton. Now, before going any further, we must point out that for the vast majority of victims of sexual misconduct and assault, they are exercising tremendous bravery in coming forward and telling their stories. Each person who has been victimized in this way should be listened to. However, as we shall see, just because someone claims to have been a victim does not mean that they have been one. Unfortunately, there have been a number of cases of false claims, which do a lot of damage to other potential victims, who might decide that it is better to remain silent on the matter. So our first subject is President Bill Clinton, who at the age of 49 in 1995 started a secret sexual relationship with a White House intern, Monica Lewinsky, who was 22 at the time. Now, there is nothing illegal about the Clinton-Lewinsky relationship, although it's considered weird by some people and outrageous by Clinton's opponents. However, what got Clinton in trouble in 1998 was when he was placed under oath as a part of the Starr investigation and lied under oath about the relationship.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part, for which I am solely and completely responsible.
Bill Clinton was impeached by the U.S. House of Representatives, but was not removed from office by the Democrat-controlled U.S. Senate. Clinton later lost his law license. What was possibly more of a scandal was how Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary treated the women who came forward and accused him of everything from having affairs to sexual assault or rape. Paula Jones, Juanita Broaddrick, Kathleen Willey, and Kathy Shelton had their personal lives and reputation dragged through the mud in an attempt by the Clintons and their political machine to ensure that Bill Clinton's political career was not derailed. It was not until 2016, 21 years after the Lewinsky affair, that these four women got some measure of payback, when they helped then-candidate Donald Trump overcome the Clinton campaign's October surprise release of the Billy Bush tape, with Trump using quote-unquote locker room talk, referring to what he would or could do with women because he was famous. Despite this tape, Juanita Broaddrick brought the matter into perspective.
Hi, I'm Juanita Broaddrick, and I'm here to support Donald Trump. I tweeted recently, and Mr. Trump retweeted it, that actions speak louder than words. Mr. Trump may have said some bad words, but Bill Clinton raped me and Hillary Clinton threatened me. I don't think there's any comparison.
At the end of the surprise interview that was done just before the second presidential debate of the 2016 electoral campaign, the media started to ask Mr. Trump about some of the things that he said on the Billy Bush tape, at which point Paula Jones exploded.
Mr. Trump, you touched a woman without their consent. Mr. Trump.
Why did you say you touched a woman without consent, Mr. Trump?
Why don't y'all ask Bill Clinton that? Why don't y'all go ask Bill Clinton that? Go ahead and ask Hillary as well.
Our next subject is Texas Congressman Blake Farenthold, who was sued in 2014 by a former aide who alleged that Farenthold created a hostile work environment and engaged in gender discrimination. This lawsuit was settled in 2015, and the settlement included an $86,000 payment made with taxpayer money. Since this settlement, amongst possibly others, was reported, there have been calls within Congress to cease using taxpayer money to pay out these sorts of settlement claims, and Blake Farenthold has announced that he's going to retire. Then we come to the story of CBS News star Charlie Rose, who was fired from the network last month after 9 women came forward and accused Rose of groping them or walking around nude in their presence. All of these allegations happened between the mid-1990s to 2011, and they all happened to women who were either employees of or prospective employees of the Charlie Rose show.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Look at those legs. All I can see is the legs.
No, it looks good.
Our next 2 subjects are President Donald Trump and movie mogul Howard Weinstein, with each man taking a different approach to the issue and with different results. In the case of Donald Trump, what we have to this point is assorted stories, a boisterous and flamboyant media star and businessman who used bold and crass behavior and talk during the 2016 campaign to help get himself elected. All of this, as the 2016 campaign unfolded, seemed to have the effect of immunizing Trump from the October surprise that everyone knew was going to happen. Of course, the media pundits and the mainstream politicians said that the campaign was done and Trump was finished. However, within the Trump team itself, it seemed that Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort, and Donald Trump himself all came to the conclusion that they needed to either fight the tape or go home. The fact that they chose to fight, I think, broke the mold on how this sort of thing is supposed to play out, and it set a precedent for how political campaigns will handle charges of sexual misconduct in the future. Of course, Donald Trump went on to handily beat Democrat Hillary Clinton in a win that no one seemed to see coming, because the media and the pollsters were all saying that Hillary would win. And to this day, Trump continues to get knocked for his behavior and for disrespecting women, but this is now largely from a media that despises him. Harvey Weinstein is one of those people in Hollywood that created a stereotype. In this case, the stereotype of the casting couch, where if you're a young aspiring actress who is looking to get a foot in the door, Harvey might be able to help you, but that price might be that Harvey gets a little something for him.
I'm telling you right now.
What do we have to do here?
Nothing. I'm going to take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
I don't drink.
Then
Can I stay on the bar?
No, you must come here now.
No.
Please.
No, I don't want to.
I'm not doing anything with you. Now you're embarrassing me.
I'm sorry. I
No,
cannot.
come in
No,
here.
yesterday was a kind of aggressive for
I
me.
know.
I need to know a person to
I
be
won't
touched.
do a thing.
I don't want
Do a thing, please. I swear I won't. Just sit with me. Don't embarrass me in the hotel. I'm here all the time.
I
Sit
know,
with me.
but
I
I don't
promise.
want to.
Please sit there. Please. 1 minute.
No,
I ask
I can't.
you. Go to the bathroom.
Please, I don't want to do something I don't want
Go
to.
to the bathroom. Come here. Listen to me.
I want to go downstairs.
I'm not going to do anything. You'll never see me again after this. Okay? That's it. If you embarrass me in this hotel,
I'm not
I'll stay.
embarrassing you. It's just that I don't feel comfortable.
I mean, don't have a fight with me in the
It's not
hall.
nice.
Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear, my children. Please come in. On everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right
Please
now.
come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my
Why
jacket, you can go.
yesterday you touched my breast?
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used
Please.
to that?
Yes, come in. Because
No, but I'm not used to
I
that.
won't do it again. Come on. Sit here. Sit here for a minute. please.
No, I don't want to.
If you do this now, you will embarrass you. No. Fine. They will call me again. Okay? I'm sorry. I promise you I won't do anything.
I know, but yesterday was too much.
The guy is coming. I will never do another thing to you. 5 minutes. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
I know, but it's kind of like, it's too much for me. I can't.
Please, you're making a big scene here.
No,
Please.
but I want to leave.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
Because this sort of behavior has been going on for years, Weinstein has been accused of assorted sexual misconduct up to and including rape by roughly 80 women, from indecent interactions spanning over the last 4 decades. The accusations have continued into as recently as last week, when actress Selma Hayek alleged numerous instances of sexual misconduct, intimidation, professional threats, and threats against her life. Harvey Weinstein has denied all of these allegations, but also has reportedly sought the help of a sex addiction clinic in Arizona. The difference between Donald Trump and Harvey Weinstein is that in the case of Trump, you have, as Juanita Broderick said,
actions speak louder than words. Mr. Trump may have said some bad words, but Bill Clinton raped me and Hillary Clinton threatened me.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. And Hoda's here with me this morning because this is a sad morning here at Today and at NBC News. Just moments ago, NBC News Chairman Andy Lack sent the following note to our organization. Dear colleagues, on Monday night, we received a detailed complaint from a colleague about inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace by Matt Lauer. It represented, after serious review, a clear violation of our company's standards. As a result, we have decided to terminate his employment. While it is the first complaint about his behavior in the over 20 years he has been at NBC News, we were also presented with reason to believe this may not have been an isolated incident. Our highest priority is to create a workplace environment where everyone feels safe and protected, and to ensure that any actions that run counter to our core values are met with consequences, no matter who the offender. We are deeply saddened by this turn of events, but we will face it together as a news organization and do it in as transparent a manner as we can. That is the statement from our chairman, Andy Lack, and we just learned this moments ago, just this morning. As I'm sure you can imagine, we are devastated, and we are still processing all of this. And I will tell you right now, we do not know more than what I just shared with you, but we will be covering this story as reporters, as journalists. I'm sure we will be learning more details in the hours and days to come, and we promise we will share that with you.
Matt Lauer was fired from his 20-year-long stint as NBC's Today Show frontman after an unidentified employee submitted evidence that he had sexually assaulted her during NBC's coverage of the Winter Olympics in Sochi in 2014. Other women have since stepped forward to tell their stories about incidents of sexual misconduct and assault going all the way back to 2001. In one such incident, a woman reported that Matt Lauer used a button located at his desk to lock his office door. He then sexually assaulted her. When this information was reported, it was said that the door locks were a security precaution so that if someone got past the building's security staff, the important personalities and other executives could lock themselves in their offices for safety. Of course, Lauer demonstrated that these devices could also be misused.
Garrison Keillor, the former host of A Prairie Home Companion, says he's been fired by Minnesota Public Radio over allegations of improper behavior. Time reports that Keillor told the Associated Press of his firing in an email. In a follow-up statement, he says he was fired over a story that I think is more interesting and more complicated than the version NPR heard. He didn't give details of the allegation. Minnesota Public Radio didn't immediately respond to messages.
It seems as though this sort of misconduct can happen with anyone, that not even the most level-headed, respected, adult-sounding person in the world is immune from being a immature child and using their power or influence to force someone to give out. Minnesota Public Radio cut all business ties with Garrison Keillor, the creator of the Prairie Home Companion, after allegations of inappropriate behavior with an individual who works with him. Keillor had been one of the few economic powerhouses on public radio, through tales of the fictional area around Lake Wobegon. Even the stars of popular TV shows are not immune from the disease of sexual stupidity.
Monsieur Liu, at last. Should have put that thing away.
A male model and actor has come forward stating that George Takei groped him while he was passed out at a party in 1981, nearly 40 years ago. The Star Trek icon has denied the allegation, but the accuser, Scott Brunton, who was 23 at the time of the incident, says, quote, "This happened a long time ago, but I've never forgotten it." Now we return to the world of politics, where the issue of sexual misconduct on the part of people with influence and power has perhaps had the greatest impact. We have already mentioned former Presidents Bill Clinton and Texas Congressman Blake Farenthold, but not meaning to be mean to the accusers of these two men, these stories are either very old or inconsequential. The difference of these next few stories is that they have helped bring down people in power. Michigan Congressman John Conyers has been accused by a former staffer of making unwanted sexual advances toward her. This is not the first accusation against the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee and the longest-serving member of the House of Representatives. However, in light of these new allegations, the seat representing Michigan's 13th district, which covers the Detroit area, has come open, since Conyers resigned effective on December 5th. In an interesting twist, the state's governor, Rick Snyder, is a Republican who could appoint someone to fill the seat until the next election, which would actually come up in the summer or fall of 2018. Snyder could appoint a Republican, only to lose the seat if the Detroit area elects a Democrat to the office. Still, it might be worth a shot. Controversial Minnesota Senator Al Franken has issued a statement saying that he will resign from the U.S. Senate, quote, over the coming weeks.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple months ago, I felt that we had entered an important moment in the history of this country. We were finally beginning to listen to women about the ways in which men's actions affect them. The moment was long overdue. I was excited for that conversation and hopeful that it would result in real change that made life better for women all across the country and in every part of our society. Then the conversation turned to me. Over the last few weeks, a number of women have come forward to talk about how they felt my actions had affected them. I was shocked. I was upset. But in responding to their claims, I also wanted to be respectful of that broader conversation, because all women deserve to be heard and their experiences taken seriously. I think that was the right thing to do. I also think it gave some people the false impression that I was admitting to doing things that, in fact, I haven't done. Some of the allegations against me are simply not true. Others I remember very differently. I said at the outset that the Ethics Committee was the right venue for these allegations to be heard and investigated and evaluated on their merits, that I was prepared to cooperate fully, and that I was confident in the outcome. You know, an important part of the conversation we've been having the last few months has been about how men abuse their power and privilege to hurt women. I am proud that during my time in the Senate, I have used my power to be a champion of women, and that I have earned a reputation as someone who respects the women I work alongside every day. I know there's been a very different picture of me painted over the last few weeks, but I know who I really am. Serving in the United States Senate has been the great honor of my life. I know in my heart that nothing I have done as a senator, nothing, has brought this honor on this institution. And I am confident that the Ethics Committee would agree. Nevertheless, today I am announcing that in the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate. I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
However, this may have been an orchestrated event planned by the DNC members of the U.S. Senate to allow them to have relatively few members accused of sexual misconduct so that they could then point the finger at Roy Moore if he had been seated as U.S. Senator for the state of Alabama. With the election of Democrat Doug Jones and the defeat of Roy Moore, the necessity for Al Franken to resign has diminished. That being said, however, Franken has not denied most of the accusations against him. He agreed to cooperate with the Senate Ethics Panel before he stated his intent to resign, and at least one person has come forward with pictures of the alleged inappropriate sexual contact. So far, Franken has not said that he has changed his mind about resigning, and again, the politics of the matter are interesting. Franken won re-election in 2014, so his term runs until 2020. Minnesota's governor, Democrat Mark Dayton, has appointed the Lieutenant Governor, Tina Smith, to replace Franken in the U.S. Senate. But because of the resignation, a special election would have to be called in 2018, giving the GOP a much better opportunity to reclaim the seat that they just lost in Alabama. Given that the Democrat blue wall in the upper Midwest was crushed in the 2016 presidential race, if the GOP fields a good candidate, he or she might win. GOP Senate hopeful Roy Moore did the opposite of what Al Franken did, but then again, to this point, there has been less evidence behind the allegations made against Moore. The judge flatly denied all the accusations, but then also refused to appear on any political talk or radio shows, instead sending out lackeys who were basically barely competent and who may have actually harmed his position in the final couple weeks of the race. Basically, the strategy was deny everything and run out the clock and hope that the stories fall apart. And that's pretty much what happened. Citizens of Alabama repeatedly told the rest of the country to mind their own business, that the people of Alabama would make the decision. Meanwhile, GOP leaders in the U.S. Senate prepared to either seat Moore or vote to eject him, depending on how that person felt about the allegations. Way too many people were pressuring Moore to drop out of the race simply because of the mere allegations, not because there was any proof to any of them. One of the accusers appeared before cameras beside lawyer Gloria Allred, claiming to have a yearbook signed by Roy Moore. But when Moore's legal team asked that the yearbook be turned over to a neutral party so that they could perform an analysis of the writing and the ink used, they got nothing. Then the woman admitted that she had written over the signature, thus ruining its value as evidence. Other accusations surfaced, this time from two women who said that Roy had approached their parents about possibly dating them. However, while the women at that time were still children, they were old enough to be past the age of consent in the state of Alabama. Still, the parents said no, and nothing else came of it. Stories that Moore had been banned from the local mall or other locations because he was trolling for young girls were shot down by the people who worked at those locations. And the most troubling allegations, made by a woman who was 14 years old at the time, had absolutely no proof to back it. And the event supposedly happened roughly 40 years ago. Unfortunately, Moore's defeat means that this story will probably also go away. And it's unfortunate not only for the possible victims, but also for the truth. Because of the stories, many people will continue to believe that Roy Moore is guilty, despite there not being any credible proof at this point. Silence is deadly to the truth when it comes to these sorts of cases. In closing, again, it is important that accusers be listened to when they accuse someone of sexual misconduct. However, we, as fellow citizens, and as a society in general, need to fully investigate these claims to ensure that they are true, because lives, professions, and reputations are at risk in each and every case. Like other serious accusations, we should not get these sorts of allegations wrong. Mitt Romney responded to the accusations against Roy Moore, saying that he and others did not have to hold Moore to the standards of innocence until proven guilty because this was not happening in a courtroom. And he is correct. However, even while we diligently search for the truth in each of these cases, perhaps that is the standard we should hold.